I will ask her a bit of like a different question, slightly different. Uh, I will specifically request her to speak about payments, government to employee, government employees payments. Like I have read that around 30 years back, 40 years back, like government employees used to have salaries in cash. Then it went to check, and now it is perhaps online happening. And similarly, like contractors being paid through checks and then being paid online, and especially in the COVID, a lot of government departments have gone into for digital payments. So, how has the whole experience of you were also earlier district magistrate, and you were also handling one of the state PSUs regarding tourism. So you would be like paying to contractors, to vendors, and stuff like that. So that whole payment scenario, how it has evolved in front of your eyes in last 10 years, and how it has impacted the stakeholders who work with the government.
Okay, thank you, Raviji, for having us here. And that's a very interesting question because the scenario has changed in the last 10, 11 years I have been in the service, because earlier we used to, cash payment was very much acceptable to everybody, to the government as well as to the business, to the customers, to the clients, and to the people in general. But then over a period of time, as the Jan Dhan accounts were opened, then it was like mandatory on us ki, we have to make only the digital payments. And then slowly and steadily, even the Manrega payments, even 500 rupees now is the time when we are making even 500 rupees, everything online. And then while I remember 2017-18, I was the CDO. That was the time when we were struggling with the Aadhaar enabled payment system, because Aadhaar was linked to some other banks, and then sometimes money used to be transferred to the other bank. Those were the teething troubles of the digital transactions. But then now around 2020-21, I've observed that all of these teething troubles are over, and now we are very seamlessly transferring everything to the contractors, as you said, to the people, to Manrega wage laborers, everybody. We are making all of the transactions online. But then again, once the transactions are online, we definitely have credit to the, we definitely have access to the bank accounts. But then when we talk about credit and savings, again, my personal experience has been we have a lot of ground to cover yet, because sometimes I'll just tell you an incident. When 2018 I joined in Chamoli, a very old lady came to me, and she had some 5,000-6,000 rupee notes, the old notes which were in currency before the demonetization. So she wanted me to exchange those notes in 2018 after the demonetization in 2016. So I just asked her, how did you get these get these notes? So she told me, okay, in rural India they have those kacha houses where they have those kacha roofs. So she had saved this money, this 6,000-7,000 rupee notes in that kacha house, the roof of their own kacha house. So she probably again wanted to save something over there. So once she opened it, she found these notes lying over there, and then she remembered, okay, I had these savings, and then she wanted me to get it exchanged through something. So my point is that the saving instruments, although she also had the bank accounts, but then she did not save it into the accounts, because probably some of them have the feelings when they need it, probably the banks are too far, probably they don't have that trust in the banks still. So they get their money in the banks, but then they take it out and then they save it in such primitive ways. Again, in the rural India, again, when you go there, you might have seen some houses under construction. So initially we used to wonder, okay, so why are these houses not done? Are these PMAY houses? Have the people run out of money? So what is the reason? But then these are later on, when I found many such houses, I realized when I talked to them that this is also means of savings for the people. When they have small, suppose they've saved something, they've saved enough only to buy some bricks, some cement, some building material, and raise two walls of the houses. So they take some days of leave, they go back to their villages, they erect two walls. So that is also means of savings for them, which is not an efficient means, obviously, because two walls will not even be used for living. two walls cannot even be, is not even a liquid form of saving. They cannot get anything by selling those two walls, but then still they save in those forms. So ultimately I think that we also have to devise solutions to how we can take these saving instruments to the poor. And not only that, in fact they save in these forms because they have trust that they will be able to make something out of it. Like there's also an example, there's also a study which was conducted in the southern part of India, I remember. So there they had found that people also save in the form of bullocks. Bullocks are used for farming. So suppose they have saved some money and they think, okay, let me purchase one bullock and I will use it, I will sell it, and I will use the money whenever I need it. So that is also, and they do it because they have an internal feeling that, okay, maybe I'll not have access to the credit, which is also true to a certain extent, and that is why they have dependence for their own self dependence. They purchase bullocks and they purchase just one bullock because they don't have money for the second bullock. So it is not even used for their own utility because you need two bullocks for farming. They purchase just one, and whenever they need, again they need money, they sell it. So these are the, and sometimes what happens when they need money, probably when the rains fail or something, if they suffer from some shocks, then probably the entire village needs money, and then all of them save through this instrument only, and then there's an excess of bullocks in the market, and then they probably don't even realize that much of amount by selling those bullocks. So these are the credit constraints which the villagers face, and I think that is a very big market to target, because it's not like people can't save, and it's also not like people are not entrepreneurial enough, because generally we also worked in rural areas, so banks also have their own reasons not to lend to the poor. They think the default rates are high, their transaction cost, obviously their fixed cost is very high if they lend to the poor. But then these are the instruments which they should tap this market, and they should devise more innovative instruments. One more example in Chennai, the fruit sellers generally borrow, like there was an example of fruit sellers wherein they purchase fruits worth 950 rupees, but then they pay 1000 rupees to the sellers, because the 50 rupees is the interest rate which they are charging. I mean, they are paying 50 rupees for 1000 rupees, which is 5% of interest per day. So this is a very exorbitant rate of interest, and if they are able to pay this 5% per day, that means they are earning more than 5% per day. So the banks should target these kind of people. They are definitely making 10-12% of profit per day. That is why they are able to pay so much. So I would suggest that we need like micro credit came as a very innovative instrument. So something similar to that, and something like which is technology friendly, like bank correspondent, because technology also cannot penetrate overnight. So you need somebody like banking correspondents who can be empowered technologically, and then they can probably take these instruments, because bank accounts have already reached. Now we need to take these instruments to the poor, which is the untapped potential, and it is socially also equitable. Not only socially, rather it is commercially also very viable and very productive, if we can think of technological solutions to these problems which still exist.
Fantastic, Swati. I think you have just highlighted the real pain of rural India, and also the saving instruments you have talked about. I think no one in this room perhaps has experienced these types of saving instruments related to bullocks or other things. Last question to Swati ji, that there is a whole segment of MSMEs and small traders, small organizations, small these initiatives are there across villages or towns, and you are at Uttarakhand, where there's a lot of stakeholders out there. So government like deals with all these people in like one way or the other. So how you can see a role of bankers, how like they can build a bridge between the government and the MSME sector, government and the government vendors, and the whole process of like there is a government tendering, people are submitting bids online, people are submitting their commitments online or the financial bids online. So and the payments happening online. So how is that government to business ecosystem uh, evolved in the last like 10 years thanks to the digital payments, and how do you see the future?
Uh, you rightly mentioned there are a lot of MSME related schemes as well as self-employment schemes which are dependent on the banks for their very existence, I would say, because a whole set of schemes like Prime Minister's Employment Guarantee Program, we also have a state program which is Mukhyamantri Swarozgar Yojana, Veer Chandra Gadwali Homestay Yojana. A lot of schemes are dependent on the bank subsidy for the scheme to function. And this is also deliberately done because in the government sectors also, when we discuss about encouragement to self-employment schemes, subsidy definitely is the easiest answer. We simply identify people and then we give them the subsidy and they start the operations. But then the default rates are very high in those cases. People are not serious because they are just being doled out some amount. So it is very important to take banks into consideration. So most of these schemes, almost all of these schemes are does have a subsidy component and a major component which is the loan component. So this ensures that the banks keep a check on them. The banking people go and they verify their microcredit plan, what they're going to do with with this loan, and they go and verify in the field as well. So I think banks have a very, and sometimes and mostly I have seen the reason for rejection is only that their CIBIL account is not like clean. They have already defaulted on such loans. Otherwise, in the hilly areas, I've seen banks generally being very cooperative, and then they generally sanction loans because the loan amounts are very small, like 20,000, 25,000. So they are not very reluctant to sanction such loans. And then people are also very like supportive in hills, as I've seen, and they also the repayment rates are also very good. But then in some places, when I was in Haridwar, then there was distrust both from the people side as well as the banking side. So it is all the ecosystem, and the government has to play a very important role in such things to create a trust, to act as a bridge between the banks and the people, so that people also repay it, people also don't default, as well as that banks don't deny them loans on small little issues, and because they feel that poor people are not entrepreneurial enough. So banks have played a very very positive role in these self-employment schemes, and that is how they are surviving, and that is how people are also especially post COVID era, they have started a lot of self-employment initiatives only with the help of the bank.